Hi, everyone, and welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I'm a Bereavement Specialist. Hi, Susan. Welcome today.
Hi, Lisa. Welcome to everybody today. I'm Susan Capurso, an End of Life Doula and a Legacy Specialist. And I am so excited today to introduce to you a positive spirit and force in our world. And his name is Jim Ryan. Jim has established rapport with communities nationwide, and he shares a genuine message, a genuine passion for the gospel, and making it an engaging experience for every audience member that he encounters. Jim brings his love for spirituality, along with his sense of self, to the minds and hearts of all his listeners. And, Jim is an esteemed author as well, and his unique ability to relate to audiences through his words and his unique expertise as a guitarist and singer comes into play as well. Jim's experience in the educational, business, and religious worlds have brought him to a place of being firmly grounded in the real world. Jim's volunteering efforts brought him to the local prison systems, where he brought positive and realistic messages to many groups of men and women, teaching personal development and motivating them to travel along a whole new path that's in front of each and every one of them. And Jim's spoken in venues throughout America as well, delivering his gospel messages in churches and retreats. Jim's been featured in many TV and radio shows throughout his journey. And Jim lights the world with a series of aha moment messages emailed to his following to bring more joy and uplifting reminders into all of our lives. You can listen to several video testimonials as well of people who've attended Jim's retreats and have been blessed and touched by his inspiring messages to bring God's presence into all of our lives. And it's an honor and pleasure for me to introduce to you today this wonderful man, Jim Ryan. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Susan. What a kind introduction. I just hope I can live up to that. It's good to hear, because it kind of reminds me of my purpose, of my mission, and my gift that I have to bring to the world. So many of us have gifts that we don't bring to the world. So often people, they're afraid, they're worried about how they'll be received. They're afraid that they'll be disappointed, or people will be negative about their idea. But I've found that saying yes to opportunities has been the key to my success, I'll say, because so often we have an idea, but then we talk ourselves out of it. But going to that jail 20 years ago, it was a turning point for me. I used to be a teacher and a financial advisor, but I've always loved personal development. I've read a lot, gone to seminars, listened to tapes. And back then I said to myself, I got all this stuff in my head. What's the point of having it in my head? I got to get it out of my head. So I spoke to some friends, and I was directed to the jail out in Yaphank, Eastern Long Island. And I was thrown into it. I started teaching a class to men who were locked up for multiple DWIs. And subsequently, they asked me to teach women who were locked up for the same thing. And they like the program. They shake my hand, they say thank you. And it just fills me up to go there. I mean, since COVID, it's kind of come to a screeching halt. And now I've moved out of state. So that's another reason why it hasn't continued. But I'm looking to get back into that volunteer field here in Tennessee. So thank you for that introduction, and I'm very happy.
You're very welcome, Jim. Don't you find that, when you just said that this morning, I heard something on TV, on some kind of talk show. I listen when I take a shower in the morning, and they said the same exact thing, that so many people have the passions and the ideas and just don't follow through. And the fact that you jump is the hardest part, I think. But I also think that it's meant to be, that things are meant to be in our journeys all through the years to happen. And just like that, that was meant for you to snowball your now profession.
All of these, you meet all kinds of people. And one of my friends I used to walk with in the morning, he said his grandfather always said, "I'd rather be a has-been than a never was." And the other thing is, what do people regret when they get old? Do they regret what they did or what they didn't do? Boy, that hits you right in the gut. Especially as we're getting older, the time is passing, and our vitality may be diminishing, and our physical capabilities may be diminishing, but we still have so much to offer. And that's
one of the number one fears of the dying, and I hear this all over in everything I'm reading lately. One of the number one fears at the end of life, not about dying, but fears at the end of life, or regrets. That's a better word. Yeah. That's a better word. One of the number one regrets is that I wish I didn't work so hard at something I didn't love.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good lesson for us to learn now.
Well, I have all these little quotes, and one of them is, nobody on their deathbed ever said, "I wish I spent more time at the office."
Right.
No, I mean, but we do. We live that life because we feel we got to succeed, we got to work hard, and we got to strive. And at the end of our life, we look back and say, what did I really give? What was my legacy? What did I would leave behind for my family, my community, and so on. So it's important to, we're talking about end of life, but it's, I think, for us really to start living so that our end of life is a celebration, no regret. Yeah, that's it. I'm all used up. I'm sliding into home plate, totally used up, nothing left. I'm ready to go. So, I mean, it's as much for us as for to comfort the dying, because and there's another aha moment that I put out a couple of years ago. It was something like, if you want to be happy as an old person, you got to start now. You don't just become happy when you're, on your deathbed or when you start to lose your faculties. You got to start now, because what you bring to your life is what's going to be there at the end of life. And it's so important. I always say, I jokingly say, I want to be the happiest old guy in the nursing home. I want to pinch that nurse's butt as she leaves as she takes the straw out of my mouth. I want to live until it's over. So anyway, that's
but these little points are so important, because I find as a doula, an end of life doula, two kinds of people, really two kinds of people. The people that feel, wow, I've done so much in my life, I'm grateful and appreciative, and it's all okay. And that's what our mission is, Lisa and I. We want everybody to feel that way. And then you have the other side of the coin. My last client was angry and bitter. And why was my life so bad and poor? And I hate this, and I hate this now, and I hate, you don't want to be in that place at the end of life.
But but where you're going to be is where you're cultivating your life to be now.
That's right.
You just don't turn on a dime. Right. We're fashioning our life day by day, minute by minute, by the thoughts we hang on to, by the choices we make, and
the words we speak.
Yeah, the words we speak, the kindness we show, or the anger. It doesn't. It's not that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but it becomes we become stuck in our way of living. And if it's a joyful, happy way of living, your death is not going to be scary. It's not going to be overwhelming. It certainly could be scary. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a walk in the park, but we're much better prepared for whatever the eventuality comes.
Like we pre-plan for so many things in our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the next birthday, for your spouse, for your next vacation, for the family, we pre-plan. Why doesn't anybody think about the end of life? So this is important.
It's a cultural thing. I think, it's something that, as you were saying before we came on the air, you guys are doing something that's ahead of the curve. This is not something that's in the mainstream. You're paving a way for people to become cognizant of the possibilities of having a wonderful death. And helping those who are approaching their last days to help them have that wonderful experience. I'm not saying wonderful, but it can be joyful. It can be grateful. Doesn't have to be a negative.
And that's going to determine in the bereavement part too, okay? Because I was talking to somebody yesterday, a grandmother who had been married for 63 years, wonderful life with somebody. And she said to me, I'm crying all the time. And I said, you know what? That's wonderful. It shows the happiness that the two of you share in the life you had, you know, and the grieving is a process. But look at that. They made a happy, wonderful life together. And there aren't the regrets and guilt and other things that are built up for people who didn't do that. So the determination of how it's going to come out, even for the people who are left, is determined right now, right by what we're doing.
And the
now.
person passing, Lisa, also has the power to make that happen with the people that are left behind. You do have that power through conversations, through all kinds of things before you leave. You can help them grieve better.
Yeah. So Jim, talk about what you do, because you have an amazing gift.
Well, a number of things came to mind as you invited me to be a guest on your show. One is my mother passed away, I don't know, maybe time passes by so fast, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. She was a wonderful woman. She was a saint of a mother. My father was an alcoholic, so her life was kind of, bound in with taking care of him and watching out and worrying. He passed away at age 65 of his difficulties that he had from the alcoholism, and that's when my mother's life began. Really, she started traveling with her friends, and her life opened up when he passed away. I mean, she did everything for him, so there was no regret there. But she was a saint. But there were she had 4 sons. Unfortunately, the sons are, again, it's a stereotype, but they're not as close to their mother as a daughter might be, especially in the end days. But I just remember not calling. She lived in upstate New York in Schenectady, and I'm living down here on Long Island at the time, and I wouldn't call her for a couple of weeks. And then I would call her on a Sunday afternoon, and it was never, Jim, why fired me to, in a big way. But there was thinking about seeing her in the nursing home. Well, anyway, I have an older brother who lives in Vermont, and he would kind of mind her because he was working near where she lived. So he would kind of take care of her on his way home from work and so on. But then when she got bad, she started, we put her in she first was in independent living, which was a beautiful experience. She had her car, she had her friends, she still lived in the same basic neighborhood, but then she started losing it. Her dementia started to set in. So we had to move her to a assisted living where, her meals were provided, her medication was provided. But even then, she started getting lost on the way back from the dining room to her room. And then we said, she needs more care. We had an aide, all day, but she needed more care. So we moved her down to Long Island where I lived, so I could kind of monitor her progress or her illness and so on. And it was funny, you go to this nursing home, and there was an old woman named Annette. And she was, not a crotchety, but she was a happy old woman, about 95, bent over, and she was always looking for a cigarette. She always wanted a cigarette. And, who cares? See, that's the thing. Some people say, Annette, you can't smoke. It's going to kill you. She's 95 years old. Let her have the damn cigarette. Let her feel that smoke into her lungs. That was her pleasure. But we think we've still got to monitor and make sure that they're healthy. Who cares? Let them enjoy it.
Let her have the chocolate, please.
Yes. Come on. Wow. Anyway, but it was so funny. We used to get a kick out of Annette. I didn't smoke, so I couldn't give her any cigarettes, but she would always, put the touch on us. Hey, she had a raspy voice from smoking. Who knows what, the final days were like. I'm not saying that, smoking, when you get that at the end of life, that could be very painful and a lot of suffering. But we used to laugh because, give them what they want. It's not the end of the world.
Definitely.
I visit her, and my mother got worse and worse, and her dementia progressed, and she started to, we put her into hospice because she started to aspirate her saliva, and pneumonia was the outcome, and she didn't respond to any of the medications. So we put her in a hospice, and there was a hospice. She was in the hospital in Smithtown. I can't remember. I think St. John's, whatever.
St. Catherine.
St. Catherine's. That's it. They had a couple of rooms dedicated to hospice, as well as the regular hospital. So my mother was in a room in a coma now, just breathing, and across the room was another woman in a very similar situation. So I would go and hold her hand and talk to her and remember the old days and things that she did that made us laugh and so on. And because people say, even though you're in a coma, you can still hear. Who knew? Who knows? But anyway, so she liked it when I would play my guitar and sing songs. So I said, I'm going to bring my guitar. So I brought my guitar into the hospice room and I played a bunch of songs. And I did it to please my mother. It was a nice thing to do for my mother, to maybe give her a little pleasure at the end of her life. And I got an email from the daughter of the woman who was across the room. The woman across the room was similar situation. She was visited by her husband, who was an old man, and her daughter. And anyway, after I sang a couple of songs, one of the songs I sang was the wedding song by Peter, Paul, and Mary. There Is Love.
That's my wedding song.
Yes, that's a lot of people's weddings. I've sung that many, many times at weddings. Anyway, I got this email from Linda, was her name. I'm going to read it to you. It just, Dear Jim, your mom recently shared a hospital room with my mom at St. Catherine's, where you uplifted all of our spirits with your music. I just wanted to thank you again and let you know that my mom passed away very peacefully at home on Wednesday, February 6th. I think she was struggling with the letting go of this life, even though the medication could not ease. However, she definitely responded to your playing and singing the wedding song, even though she wasn't communicating with us verbally anymore. That was a song that my brother Jimmy sang many times for us, much in the same manner as you did. I believe that on some level, your song enabled my brother, who died suddenly almost 3 years ago, to reach out to my mother and bring her home to God. Once she arrived at her home with my father, she slept and slept without moving a muscle until she finally and peacefully left us and went to her heavenly home. Thank you for touching our lives. I pray that you and your family, especially your mom, are blessed as we were blessed.
Oh,
I mean,
so beautiful.
Wow.
What more could you ask for?
I have that framed in my office. And whenever I'm having a bad day, I just go over and take a look at that and say, thank God, I'm so blessed. And, the story is very poignant, and I get it, choked up every time I look at it. But the thing is, so often we'll do something nice, whether it's, for a dying parent or dying relative, or just in general, do something nice. And it's like we toss a pebble onto a still pond, it goes bloop, and then what happens? The ripples go out, and we never know where those ripples are going. And it's such a powerful image, I think, just to do good. I wasn't trying to influence anybody, but please my mother. But who knew the results of that gesture? And it sticks with me. And I tell that story in most of my talks, just to let people know that we're all connected. Everything that you do that's good, you never know who's watching. And it can just, spread the love. So that's one story I wanted to bring here. So
I love that story. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So talk about your aha moments and the talks and the things that you do, Jim, because they're really inspirational.
Well, I started from the jail after, about 3 years of volunteering at the jail, and I got such a wonderful response. They'd shake these tough guys, motorcycle guys, some guy. I mean, I've had Hispanic laborers, I've had bond traders, I've had orthopedic surgeons. Alcoholism doesn't, discriminate. You could be the most successful guy, but be a drunk. And these guys were caught 3 times driving under the influence, driving while intoxicated over a 10-year period. Then they got locked up in this facility. They used to call it the DWI alternative facility. It wasn't, originally it was it doesn't matter. the idea is to get them, and they have a lot of volunteers. They have AA, they have yoga, they have all different things. I'm one of many volunteers who would go in and do our little thing for these folks. But like I said, they shake my hand, they say thank you. See, again, I've got this gift of remembering names. I'll go to a cocktail party, and let's say you and Susan are at the party, and I haven't met you before, but somebody will introduce me. Oh, here's Lisa. Oh, here's Susan. I'll say hi, hi. Then 2 minutes later, I forget who you are. But in a group of 25, they give me their names. I remember them all. It's this crazy thing. So I would soften these guys up by remembering who they are. They'd walk into the room, I'd shake their hand and say, hi, Tom, hi, Dennis, hi, Alex, and they just would, soften right up. My father always said, there's no sound so sweet as the sound of your own name. So that stuck with me. If you remember who somebody is, it's a compliment. So I would compliment these guys, and they just sit, they were sponges. They would listen, there was no, and it was always a little culture, because the men would come and go. There was always a certain spirit among the group. And sometimes there'd be, it was always overall good, but sometimes a couple of young bucks would come in and they'd be sitting in the back of the room with their arms folded, like, what are you going to tell me, buddy? You got nothing to tell me. Their arms folded. They didn't say that, but you could see their face. But then within 15 minutes, they're raising their hand, they're contributing, they're asking questions. It was just so much fun to break break them down, to win them over. And that's part of, my gift as a speaker, because I tell my story about the jail, and that sometimes is the most interesting part of a program, because I'm just a Joe Blow. I've never had a near-death experience. I've never had a terrible, my life has been pretty good overall. I've had some disappointments and deaths, but, I'm pretty fortunate. But so I talk about how to be happy. I've got a couple of signature talks. One is I talk about 8 characteristics of happy people, and the other one is managing thought, the key to success in business and in life. Or the subtitle of that second one will change depending on who the audience is. And I just came back from speaking at a conference in Saratoga Springs, upstate New York, to the New York Association of Pupil Transportation. It was all the people who were in charge of the buses in all the school districts around the state. So there were about 200 people at this conference. It was my first live talk in over a year because of COVID. There's nothing, no audiences. So I've done some Zoom stuff, but this was so much fun having an audience. And I don't know, it's just like this talk, we talked about, so many people think their thoughts are their life. So many people think they're stuck. But really, the first part of the talk is thoughts are just thoughts. It's not my life. And we do a little meditation exercise to illustrate that I am not my thoughts. I have the ability to hang on to thoughts that make me feel good and let go of the thoughts that disempower me, that anger me, that sadden me, so, and that's a real, if somebody can grasp the fact that I am not my thoughts, it can be huge. And then we talk about the studies about happiness. And, I started this stuff back in the year 2000, and about the same time, the head of the American Psychological Association, a guy named Martin Seligman, came up with the concept of positive psychology. He saw this august group of psychologists who were dealing almost only with people who had problems, paying no attention to the bulk of the population who were doing okay. How can we enhance their lives and, improve their lives? So he came up with this positive psychology idea. And since then, they've done all kinds of studies on happiness. More before, it was only about, depression, anxiety, all these other things. Now they study happiness, and the prevailing wisdom is out of 100% of our happiness, 50% is genetic. We're born of parents. We have tendencies. We're not stuck. They're tendencies. If my parents were the life of the party, chances are I've got an outgoing personality. If they were shy, chances are I'm a little quiet. So anyway, and 10%, they say, is our circumstance. Did I grow up in a happy family, or was it dysfunctional? Did I go to a good school, or was it run by the hooligans? Did I grow up in a safe neighborhood, or was it dangerous to go out? So that's 50, 10. And you know what the other 40% of my happiness is? What I do with what I've got. Wow, 40%. So I throw it right back at people. I said, you're not stuck. You got that 40%. What are you doing with it? And I always say, what kind of a life do you want for yourself? And this is so important for this end of life, because I'm fashioning my life every day. And if I want to have a happy old age, I got to work on it now. And this is so important that we're not stuck. We can let go of the, regrets and the angers and the dysfunction in my family if we want. Nobody's telling me how to think. I'm the one that's doing it. So it's so exciting when people, I see my job as opening people's eyes to the possibilities of having a good life, and give you some strategies that anybody can do if you really want to. And so it's really a kick. And I'm so blessed to give these talks. I've given talks all over the country. Next month, I'm speaking to the state convention of the Florida Realtors Association, a big deal in Orlando. And, people were at my talk upstate. What I've found over the years is, I don't care who the audience is, they're people.
Yes.
And whether they're head of the bus transportation, convicts in prison, educators at superintendent's conference day, bankers, they're people. And if you can get them to realize that I'm the one that's choosing to be happy or unhappy, you can, change the workplace, change the home life, and it's exciting. So anyway, that's my story. I don't want to keep going on and on about that, Lisa.
Oh, but you can, and we'll keep listening. It's so nice.
It's also power. Think
Yeah.
about the power that people really have that they don't realize.
Yeah.
I think they're stuck there and that's it, and they can't ever change. And you're helping them see that they have the power to do so.
I'm doing a legacy session with a woman right now, and she's in early stage of dementia, but I'm trying to withdraw a lot of things out of her now. And I'm going to actually, instead of the recording, I'm going to put it together in a book for her family. So we're talking about movies, and I don't know how, I always come back to Gone with the Wind. And I mean, that shows my age, I guess, but the part where she's out in the front lawn and she just drops to her knees to surrender, and she picks up that dirt and she says, whatever she says, but basically she says, I can't worry about this now. I'll think about it tomorrow. And that concept, we all have that choice to do that. Not brush things under the carpet, but we have the choice to get up and feel happy today or not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the characteristics of happy people is appreciate. Well, people always ask me, Jim, I want to be happy. Get me started. How do I do it? I say, number one, you got to want to be happy. You got to want to be happy. Number one. Okay. Happy people understand it's not the circumstances of my life that make all the difference, but how I deal with those circumstances. I mean, right. I've seen people who have gotten MS. And, she'll come up in a wheelchair. She'll come up at the end of a talk and say, I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life. So everybody always says, health is everything. It's a lot, but it's only everything if you say it's everything. Because some people, what happens if you lose your health? You're going to be miserable? I don't know. See, it's more than, it's not so much what happens, but how we deal with what happens. Anyway, I don't want to get into that whole thing.
No, we know that. Susan and I know that very, very well. Both of us have been through a lot, which is why we're doing this.
Good, exactly. Your examples
say to me all
the
time, how are you happy when you think about everything that happened in your life?
Yeah.
And that's not how I see my life.
That's it.
There's a Netflix hour show on right now that it's called Stressed to Happiness. And it's about a couple. The husband is a producer, very high stressful job. And his wife found this monk. And they went on a retreat, and there were some other people there, but they focused the hour on him. And he, being in nature is a big thing, right? And they were in a beautiful, beautiful place. I'm not sure if it was Thailand or where it was. It was an exotic place. but the monk was standing next to him, and the man says, you know, being here this week, I'm so happy. And for the first time, I feel peaceful in my whole life. And the monk says, and you told me how stressful it is to keep up with those Lamborghini payments that you have and this and that. He goes, if that Lamborghini was right here next to us in the grass, would it really matter in your life? He goes, no, because I'm more happier here than I ever am with the Lamborghini in my life.
Yeah.
So it's where you bring, I think, the positive joy into your life, no matter what situation. If you could do that, and it's hard, it's tough. I've been on a struggle my entire life, starting from dysfunctional childhood, so I can tell you. But if you can bring that knowing that I'm okay and I could be peaceful and I can bring in peace into my own life right now at this very moment, no matter what you're going through, as well as in the joyful and happy and exciting Lamborghini times. But if you can do that in your stressful times, well, then you've got it made. You've found the key.
It's so true. It's so true. We strive and strive and strive. And, you know, what are we really getting? You know, we get
Stuff.
sick. Yeah, stuff. Yeah, stuff.
And we die with no stuff. My favorite guy, Wayne Dyer, what did he say? We come into the world with nothing, and we go out of the world with no thing.
That's right. He says our final suit has no pockets.
That's right. You love him too.
Yeah. Good
That's
stuff.
my man.
Yeah.
Jim,
There was
can
one
you?
other. Oh, go ahead.
Go,
Okay.
tell us the one other.
One
Well,
other.
you know, I've read a lot of books, and one book that applies to this, our conversation today, is by Loretta LaRoche. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
She's an older woman. She's a comedian, and she talks about stress. And the title of one book is "Relax. We may only have a few minutes left." You know, we get so caught up with everything and making plans and planning this and planning that. Sometimes, you know, we make plans and God laughs. That's you know, the other side of it. Relax. You may only have a few minutes left. We get so overwrought with minutia that we lose the big picture of love and compassion and friendliness and gratitude. It's all there for us if we would just open our eyes and let it be. It's crazy.
I love
And
that.
it shouldn't take catastrophes for all of us to see that.
That's
Pandemic, people say, oh, now I've changed the way I look at things. And I don't know. I think many of them will go back to the same things before, unless they change their attitude and how they see things.
Yep. There's one of the chapters in my book about this woman who was misdiagnosed with brain cancer, but it turned out that it was an infection from a cavity, and it wasn't a brain cancer. But she was, you know, given a short lease on life. But then she went for a second opinion, got antibiotics, and boom, she was cured. But why do we need that? Why don't we wake up every day with the joy of being alive? Another day to live, another day to love, another day to be me and have fun. You know, we put it off. We you know, it's a state of mind, and it's a practice.
It is. And you do need to work on it. I've been developing my practice, Jim, like you said, with self-development since I was 15 years old.
Yep.
My
It's
entire life.
It's a life's work. That's a chapter in my book. It's a life's work.
That's right.
We all start from a certain place, but where do we go from here? You know, Jack Canfield says, he talks about, you know, these situations, and he says psychologists tell us that about 85% of people, of grown-ups, of adults, have had some dysfunction in their family over their lifetime. So we all have problems. You know, so his thing is, when you start to feel sorry for yourself for your problems, he says, get over it. So what? You're no different than anybody else.
That's right. That's right.
And
so, you know, so I want to summarize. I know we don't have that much time left, but I want to summarize, Jim, a little bit about being happy and grateful and blessed and appreciative before the end of life, during the end of life when it's happening, and after end of life. So very briefly, let's talk about before end of life.
So this is what I've been talking about, is preparing ourselves, living a life of joy and happiness every day. That just doesn't happen by itself. Some people are more prone to happiness, and some people are less prone to happiness. We have these tendencies, but that doesn't mean we're stuck. So we can always be working on ourselves, reading, hanging out, going to a seminar, watching an empowering movie. What do we got to feed our mind. So often we're feeding our mind with stressful politics and arguments and woe is me, and America's in the toilet, and the world is coming to an end. And enough. Let me live my life. Let me influence the people around me. We want to change the world, but really, if you can change your own world, you've done the world a big service. So
now talk about during, okay? So your experience in a passing with a loved one. So for the person, the family member or friend, and then a sentence or two for the person who's nearing those end stages. So for the family members, how do we hold on to that happiness when we feel like life is over?
Well, there's certainly, it's an emotional time, and some people are very emotional and some people are less emotional. But when a loss is a loss, and it can be devastating. And like Lisa was talking about, that woman who cries every day, it's okay. Support is the I think the job of a caregiver. Love, support, maybe holding their hand, massaging their feet, stroking their skin, giving
being
them
present, right, Jim? Being present in the moment and knowing that we're all going to experience this one day, no matter what.
That's it. And
no matter what. So let's be present and in the experience for them right now.
Absolutely. Let them know that you're caring about them to the very end. Every moment, your love is there. Let them feel your love. Let them hear your expressions of the love. Let them feel the tactile touch of your fingers on their face, and kiss them and hug them and let them feel the warmth of your body, because that's all you can do. You can, comfort is all you can give. You can't stop the process, but you can let them know that you're there and you love them.
Now for the person that's passing. Now, yes. Sometimes you don't know it and they're in a coma or out of it a little bit longer. But before that point, weeks before that point, when you're still there and can experience happiness in any way, what would you suggest to them?
Well, there's a song that I sing at my talks. It's by Joni Mitchell, Big Yellow Taxi. Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. So love the person. Don't even, before they have dementia, pick up the phone, call people, send them a little card, let them know that you care about them all the way through, even before they start to lose their faculties and pass away.
But for the person laying in the bed is what I mean. The person laying in the bed, knowing that their time is coming. How do you put a little light on that for them? That's a tough question, I know.
Oh, it's a real, I'm
expecting the answer from you today, Jim.
No, well, the only thing you can do is be the light yourself. Be the light that they can reflect off of. And I think that's all you can do. You could be the light for them and console them and cajole them and just make their whatever experience they have a joyful one. You can't get inside their head, but you can be the lover. You can be the consoler and
think about others, not yourself so much during this time.
Yeah.
Now, what about after? So after they're gone, right? Lisa dives a lot into the bereavement part of this. What shed some happiness on a person who's just lost the love of their life?
Again, a loss is a loss, and it can be devastating. It depends. Some people, if the dying is protracted over a period of time, that means the grieving is started. When the diagnosis is terminal, sometimes people start to grieve then in a certain way. You know, the love and the caring is still there, but there's 5% is understanding that this is going to end at a certain point, and that continues. And afterwards, again, what I talk about sounds simple, but nothing is simple. This is all very difficult, very deep, very emotional. I always say you got to focus on the love that you had, whether it was 10 years with a person or 5 years or 60 years. You know, we again have a choice of what are we holding on to? Am I going to hold on to the anger and the loss? Maybe, you know, that's part of it.
People
Learning
do.
to let
go on for years like that.
Yeah, learning to let go. And you do that by focusing not on, you know, you can't stop the feeling of the loss, but you can also soften it by thinking about the wonderful times that you had together, the vacations, the love, the little, you know, affections that you experienced during your life, the children that you had, the places you lived, the experiences that you had. So you can fill your mind on, see, this has to be done on purpose. It doesn't happen by itself, because if you just let it go, you're going to feel like garbage. You're going to feel the loss. You're going to be hurt. You're going to be lonely.
And be drowning and feel overwhelmed.
Those are all the realities. So
right.
You can't try not to do that. I mean, give yourself time. I always talk about, again, it sounds crazy, but if you can compartmentalize some of this sadness and say, I'm going to allow myself to be sad, you know, when I wake up in the morning till 10 o'clock or till breakfast. I'm going to moan, I'm going to groan, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm going to cry, I'm going to weep, I'm going to hit the pillow, say, why did you leave me? Why did you leave me here? Why didn't you, you know, let that go.
Like Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, let it go. But then during the rest of the day, say, look, I can't live my life that way. I have to, you know, I have to live my life the way my spouse would have wanted me to live my life. Very few spouses, I mean, you see it, well, I don't want to make jokes out of it, but most spouses would want their surviving spouse to have a good life. Just like Lisa's husband said, you know, have a good life. And
he said, promise me you won't live alone the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I would have said the same thing to him.
Yeah. See, but see, that gives you consolation. But the hurt is there, but the love is there. And those final words are there. That you may not get the final words. That's very fortunate that was your husband gave you that love and that
But
expression.
Every time Lisa tells that, she has a big smile on her face.
Hey, I do too.
You know that's a completion. That's a satisfaction.
Yep.
And what you were saying, Jim, is so true. I tell people, you know, on the anniversary, on your wedding anniversary, on the anniversary of the death, on the anniversary of his birth, don't just ignore those days. You know, do something that he would have loved or she would have loved. Watch a movie that reminds you. Let that time period, like you talk about time period, let that time period be the time that you immerse yourself in that love and remember
Celebrate.
it. And then you can go on and live the rest of the time. But if you don't have that, then what you've done is you've circumvented the whole process of really grieving and true bereavement. Because when you push it under, believe me, it comes up so many times for people. They're angry, they're guilty, they're, you know, all kinds of negative things, and they don't go on with their lives, as you said, as the person would have wanted them to. So,
you know, I think the other side of the coin too, the other half is to really love yourself. Yeah. And I found that after the loss of my husband, that it was really important for me in the little things that I did every day to be gentle, to feel like a little girl again, and to be easy with myself and to take care of myself better. And, you know, to treasure the moments that you're with a friend, or if you can get a massage or get my nails done, to love yourself. Right.
Yeah. There's a chapter in my book, be the compassionate observer of yourself. And so when you're in that process of self-love, and not in a negative way, but just trying to feel good to you know, as part of the grieving process, it's not always going to work. So when you start to fall back into that negativity and that despair and that anger, it's okay. You're allowed. Be compassionate. So often we talk about being compassionate to others, which is wonderful, but we don't, you know, give that compassion to ourselves. Give yourself a break.
Could you Could you put up that book that you've referred to a couple of times? We'd love
Yeah.
to see that book.
Yeah.
Simple happiness.
Really, 52
52 easy ways to lighten up. I mean,
Wow.
I used to be a financial advisor, and I had a client. I had clients for years. They became almost like family. And at one point, one of my clients' husband died, and I had given her a copy of my book. And she called me and said, thank God I had that book. It gave me something, concrete to read, to fill my mind, to help me move forward. Not in a cold way, but just I needed some support, and that book gave me support. And that's happened for a lot of people.
Where can we get that book?
The book is on Amazon. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It costs $12.95. I guess, you can, with the shipping or whatever, how Amazon does it. Or you can get it from me. I mean, I always carry books around with me. I give them away to people that I befriend, but you can get it from me. Let's see, my phone number. I'll give you my phone number. It's 631-875-1484. Call me. And if you want a book, I can sign it for you and I'll mail it to you. You pay for the postage. It's $15 if you buy it from me. But if you want to buy a bunch of them, sometimes people buy books in bulk to give to their friends, to give as gifts. You get a better deal, a much better deal.
And is that your email? I see on the bottom of your picture there, info@jimryantalks.com.
That's my email address. And if you want to contact me through email, that's fine. Do that. Yep.
And then
so
they can
mainly right now, I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Can they join then your email list so that they can get these aha moments?
Yes, go to my website, which is jimryantalks.com. There's a place on the home page where you can give me your email address, and you're automatically added to my list, and you'll hear from me every Wednesday morning. I also, Susan mentioned this in the introduction. Again, I don't keep talking about me, but I also
all about you, Jim, today. All about you. Okay.
Stop it. I tell my wife, you got to be a shameless promoter. I know I've got something good, and I got to make people know that I got something good. That's the same thing with you guys. You guys have got something good. You got to be shameless promoters. Anyway, I forgot what the point was.
I'm sorry.
You can. I also have a God-centered email list because I've been doing retreats in churches as well as talks in the secular world. I'll do a Lenten retreat. I'll do an Advent retreat. That's usually when they're focused, but it could be another time during the year. I've done about 50 of these retreats in churches, and it's basically the same message about being happy, but through a God-centered theme. And on Fridays, I send out a God-centered email. So if you want, you can go to my other website, Catholic Retreats with Jim Ryan, and you can sign up for that list. But you can always email me, say, put me on both lists or whatever. So.
And basically what you're doing right now is your love of speaking. So you're giving talks. If somebody's interested in having you into their organization, just to give you a call, and you can arrange something that way.
That's right. I just gave this talk upstate. It was a live talk to the transportation people. And I just got 2 inquiries about doing Zoom talks for the bus drivers. They're not going to pay for me to fly back up to New York and put me up in the whole thing. But a Zoom talk is very economical, and people can sit there and hear my message and hopefully be, get excited and empowered. So it's nice. Yeah, it's technology can be our friend.
Wonderful.
Yes, it's opened up a lot of doors for people.
Yes.
Was there anything else you wanted to add today, Jim?
Do I have another hour? No.
I know. This was so great today.
No, I appreciate, you make it so easy. I was a little nervous because, this is not my area of expertise, but, I have been through the experience from my mother. So, and have some positive experiences that hope I could relate that other people might benefit, as you guys are doing full time. And I salute you. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share these ideas with you two ladies, whom I've known for a long time.
We
and
have,
respect.
we have
Yes.
known you, and we love
Yep.
the work
It's been
that
a
you do.
pleasure.
We're very
Yeah.
grateful,
Yep.
truly, to
Yeah,
know.
and I want to come to one of those retreats. I know I told you that, and I missed the last one when you were here on Long Island.
Well, I may be
I'll
doing,
watch out.
I may be doing more on Long Island with the churches because, there's been a lot of interest. So I may come back. I probably will. Yeah. So you'll know.
You're always
Good,
welcome
good.
back.
Yep.
Well, we
Good.
thank you so much for being here. It's really
Yeah.
great. Your
And again-
words are wonderful.
Tell us quick about your book and
So both Susan and I are involved with many different things. Each of us have self-authored our own books. So mine have been towards pancreatic cancer support books in memory of my husband, who died 12 years ago. And Lustgarten Foundation gets the proceeds of all of my all of the books that I sell. And then I'm also a bereavement specialist, and I help people grieve and families as well, so they can celebrate the person who has passed on and continue to live their lives fully. So,
nice.
Susan.
And my two books, the first, Coming Full Circle, and it's 100 tools, tips, and ideas to bring into your life and your family's life at the end of a life. And Remember Me, the story of my life, is a book filled with prompts to leave your memories, experiences for your family and for future generations that you'll never get a chance to meet. So that you'd fill out on your own. Both of those you can find on Amazon. You can search Susan Capurso. The East End Academy is a place where I house end of life and transform your life courses as well. So they're digital online courses. Take a look at that. That's East End Academy. I think that's on the top of my screen here. Yeah. And we both do consulting. We both do consulting for families and individuals at any stage in the timeline.
And our one course that we produced that I think is very sensitive and people should really look at it is, what does a dying person want? And that's also on the same site, eastend.academy. So
profound and important information, because if you know, you grow and you learn, and it's all part of the planning process, and it can be a much more beautiful experience for everybody.
that's right.
So we thank you, Jim Ryan, for entertaining us today, and we'd love to have you back at some point in the future. And good luck in Tennessee, your new
Yes.
home,
Yes.
and with all your talks. I mean, you're amazing.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you so much, ladies. I
seeing you.
appreciate it. It's been a
Take
pleasure.
See you
Bye.
next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.